Your unique story, our global audience. Global One Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Global One Media's exclusive one-on-one interviews with company executives. This is an opportunity to make informed investment decisions. I'm your host, Ashley Berry, and today, Terry Lynch, CEO and president of Power Nickel, is here with us, Canada's next high-grade, low-carbon nickel mine, listed on the TSX Venture Exchange as PNPN, the OTCQB as PNPNF, and the Frankfurt Exchange as IVVI. Terry, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Great to be here today, Ashley. Good to see you again.
Perhaps you could start by giving us a brief overview of Power Nickel, your mission and vision, and the story behind its inception.
Yeah, so Power Nickel is our big focus is to build a high-grade nickel sulfide mine in Quebec, and it'll be what we think will be the world's first carbon-neutral nickel mine. We're having some amazing exploration results these days, and it's going just about as good as things can go on the exploration side. So we're quite excited about bringing our news to the global stage and showing people what we're doing here and why it's such a tremendous opportunity to be looking at Power Nickel as an investment opportunity at this moment in time.
Okay, terrific. So you touched on the exploration properties. Sounds like really some amazing results. Perhaps we could dive a little bit deeper into what it is exactly, maybe the deposits they potentially contain and their advantages.
Sure. So it's a high-grade nickel sulfide. So typical, we started off with a historical resource that we had acquired several years ago before nickel got hot. It was about 3.1 million tons of about 1.6% nickel EQ, which was generated by about 1% nickel, about 0.5% copper, 0.07 or so cobalt, and about 1.5 grams of PGMs. So very polymetallic, very rich mix. And then we've started to drill that up in the last 24 months. And we would expect we'd be updating our 43101 probably in Q3 this year. And we'd expect to see that go to probably 8 to 10 million tons, which would be more than 100,000 contained tons of nickel, which would be definitely enough to make it a commercial enterprise. So it's been a pretty successful exploration program, and it's probably just the beginning because we've had some amazing step outs, and it looks like we're currently exploring about a 1 kilometer stretch of about a 6 kilometer ultramafic sequence. Other big ultramafic nickel deposits in Canada were Lynn Lake, 22 million tons, and Voisey's Bay at plus 50. So we certainly think we'll be in that category at the end of the day. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, you talk about the excitement. So really, at the end of the day, what excites you specifically, about these exploration projects? What makes you tick? What gets you going when you're thinking about the amazing work you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously on the main ore body, what we call Nisk main, we've been we've had, I think, 5 sets of releases out over the last 6 months or so, and every one's contained a big hit. Like today, we had 14 meters of 1.5% nickel. It's gone from, we've had one of 40 meters of 1.6% nickel. So we keep getting these really massive intersections of high grade nickel sulfide, which is awesome and not easy to come by. I welcome anybody to check out the other, nickel discoveries. Nickel's bloody hard to find, so especially high grade. so that keeps us stoked. And then I guess what really ratchets it up a few notches is the fact that basically high grade nickel sulfide mines, every one in the history of the world, has always been a collection of other deposits. So it's what they call a string of pearls. So the first pearl would be, say, your first pit. And then typically there's 3 or 4 or 5 of these that become the deposit. So far we've been working on one pit, effectively one deposit. And that's sort of, we think, getting to a commercial stage. This is what we talked about before. But we think there's going to be multiple ones. And we've had some pretty interesting sort of, I guess, clues that that's happened. We did a step out that we announced just about a month ago that we stepped out 5 kilometers on strike from our project along this ultramafic sequence. And we had a bonanza discovery hole where we had almost 8 meters of 1 ounce PGMs. So that's a very exciting sort of revelation. And typically, when you get that type of super high grade, big intercept of PGMs in a nickel deposit, it means you've had something massive happen in this area. So we're talking Norilsk, Voisey's Bay, some of the truly legendary nickel deposits and PGM deposits in the world. And, maybe we're going to get one of these here. So it's certainly exciting to sort of follow up those clues. And we're looking forward to, getting back to drilling in just a short period of time.
Absolutely. I really like the description of bonanza discovery. I think that's fantastic. Let's discuss government support when it comes to facilitating your exploration operations. How does this help you leverage advancements more effectively and efficiently?
No question about it. The governments of Canada and the governments of Quebec are arguably, at this point in time, I would say Quebec's the best jurisdiction in the world to be exploring for critical minerals. Why I would say that? There's three primary reasons. One, Quebec has done a great job of setting up infrastructure, so roads and power and airports. So, for example, we're literally off a major 4-lane highway. You can drive to the site. Across the road is a major Hydro-Quebec substation. So, access to cheap green power that will power our mine. We're 8 kilometers from a small village that's called Namaska, where it has an airport and supplies and whatnot. So there's 4 mines being built or has been built in the immediate 100-kilometer radius of our project, which means, of course, that the community support is strong. So the government of Quebec's done a great job of interfacing with the local groups. In this case, our Aboriginal partners are the Cree, and they've done a great job of basically gaining perspective with the Cree and showing them how that they can benefit and profit from mining. So they're a very proud partner. And for example, when our guys are done drilling on the site each day, they'll go and they'll stay at a very nice free resort hotel. So there's many ways that the partnership has worked. And then finally, of course, and perhaps most importantly, the financial incentives in Quebec are unparalleled in the world. So on the exploration side, you basically get 2-for-1 exploration. So, for example, we just closed the financing at 50 cents for a unit with a half warrant at 50 cents. When we announced it, the stock was 28 cents. And ultimately, our investors, so you say, well, how do you get people to pay 50 cents when the stock's at 28? Well, that's possible because of the tax benefits. So what happened was we were able to get Quebec-based investors to invest at 50 cents. They took tax deductions and tax credits, and ultimately for them, their net impact was they reduced their tax from 54% to 42%. So they're saving 12% after tax and they're out. And then our investors came in at the back end and bought that unit from them for 25 cents. So our investors got, put up a quarter, had 50 cents working for them. That's great for them. And the government gets, in this case, about $5 million channeled to critical mineral developments. And that's what they're interested in doing. So everyone wins. So it's a tremendous advantage. And what's good is that the investors can come from anywhere. They can come from Europe. They can come from Asia. They can come from Canada, other parts of Canada, the United States, etc. It's not, but the front end is done through the Quebec, high taxpayers, and there's plenty of them. So there's ample opportunity to do this again. And so that's on exploration, which is exciting enough. And then just recently, in a move that was underappreciated by the market, because the market was obsessed with the regional banking crisis that's still sort of lingering. And what happened was the Quebec government and the federal government of Canada passed 2 new, or proposed new budgets. And they basically, in these budgets, the federal government of Canada will provide a 30% tax credit to build and equip a mine, and the Quebec government up to 25%. So a total of 55%. So if our nickel mine is going to cost $400 million, all of a sudden we're going to get 200 plus million of it from our governments. I mean, that's just staggering. So it should have obviously rippled through our stock valuation, and not just for Power Nickel, but for critical elements, for NMG, many other fine companies in Quebec that are advancing other mineral projects forward that will receive this benefit. And seemingly the markets missed that point. But those are, pretty dramatic, moves by governments to support the advancement of critical mineral development in our country, and as in response to obviously the greening of the economy and the decarbonization worldwide efforts.
I would have to imagine that all of these advancements, the partnerships that you're talking about, is really beneficial for the shareholder at the end of the day. Obviously, with all these successes, there are risks. Do you have risks that you're currently facing, and perhaps what strategies do you have in place to deal with them?
The mining, of course, is filled with lots of key areas that you have to focus on and execute on well. You have to, for example, we talked about community risk. So it's important to engage with the community to make sure that they want to be partners in the mine. That they in a lot of jurisdictions have NIMBY problems where not in my backyard. They want all the things that modern society needs nickels and various copper and various metals for, but they don't want to have the mine in their backyard. But so there's a number of ways to change that. One is to work in communities where they're openly supportive of mining, which is our case, so that we've done that. But it's important to be engaging and to be transparent, and that's what we're doing. Obviously, the whole ESG side of things is now a very big factor to consider in any development project. So we've been very, I guess, progressive in that. We, for example, in our drilling, our drilling this year is our primary carbon footprint. As a junior miner, we're not really doing much other than drilling, and so when we drill, we are powering our drills and trucks with diesel. So that would be our footprint. So we basically offset our carbon footprint this year, which is we think we'll do ultimately about 40,000 meters of drilling, by paying an extra 25 cents per meter drilled to buy carbon offset credits from Verra, certified credits to basically offset our carbon impact. So we're basically in our designing process, we're very much focused on developing a carbon neutral approach. And there are ways to do that that are cost effective and make sense both for the business and for the environment. And we believe firmly, having traveled the world and spoken to many class 1 nickel customers, like in the battery sector, they want clean nickel and are prepared to pay for it. So we're going to make the effort to focus on that, and so that's all about sort of in the design. It's also about we're lucky, we're blessed in having green hydroelectric power, obviously. So it's going to take full advantage of that. So sometimes it's just location and making the best of your strategic competitive advantages so that you can turn those into value for our shareholders and for our community.
Great point there. And lastly, quickly, why nickel? Why now? And what are the top catalysts that potential investors, should be paying attention to in the coming months?
So why nickel? Generally speaking, is that nickel's one of the core elements to batteries. So there's as much nickel as anything in those batteries. They call them the lithium batteries, but they could be called the nickel battery as well. And Elon Musk has made that point. So generally speaking, class 1 nickel, which is what's needed for battery development, is in short supply. That's what we're developing at Nisk, is a class 1 nickel supply. So the nickel forecast, they say that by 2030 we'll need 62 new nickel mines. Well, I know where one of them is, but I'm not sure about the other 61. Nickel's really tough to find. It's actually harder to find than lithium or almost any other metal, and it's in economic quantities. So I don't know that we'll be able to meet the lofty goals that have been set by the UN and by our governments. I don't think we'll be able to find the minerals that quickly and get them developed that quickly. But certainly, if you do have a nickel mine, especially in North America, you're going to do very well. Why do I say North America especially? Well, because the governments in North America are now sort of readjusting their programs to sort of localize their supply chain, so not be too reliant on China on these matters, to try and develop some diversity of supply and in terms of making sure that we can power our cars and do whatever without having to be cut off at any point in time. So Inflation Reduction Act is basically driving that by giving incentives for North American production. So you won't be able to have a North American car that isn't powered by North American nickel and meet your goals in just a few years. So if you have that, it's going to be an enormous advantage, and of course we do. So I think the long-term price trends for nickel probably will stay in the $10 to $15 range. Because as it gets beyond that, it gets uncompetitive, and we want to be able to stay competitive. So I think, but that would be fantastically healthy for the nickel industry, and we would certainly be able to profit and grow our businesses in that respect. So the catalysts for our business going forward, A number of them, really. This thing is a news pipeline. We just put out news today of another big assay result, which basically extends our resource and grows it. And as a mining investor, you make really big money in mining when you find a mine that isn't deemed to be commercial that becomes commercial. That's the 0 to 1 moment, and that's when the magic happens. It's about to happen for Power Nickel. So and that will lead to a multiple growth in the stock. Like we're talking several times, 10 to X or better is going to come, I believe, for Power Nickel, all based on math, not based on hyperbole. So if you look at our stock and a market capitalization versus other high grade nickel sulfide mines in the world, we're trading between 1/5 and 1/20th of the value. And that's just not going to sustain over time because our project is every bit as good or better, and they're all down by half. So, I mean, the market on nickel hasn't really taken off yet, but it will. Catalyst-wise, we'll have more assay results coming in about 2 or 3 weeks. We've done a very interesting, geophysical program. We call it an airborne EM. That sort of when you have a nickel body like we have, massive sulfides are highly magnetic. So airborne EM is a great tool to pick those up. So that'll come out. So that'll be quite newsworthy. We're also doing something fairly innovative on the search side. We're using a new technology that Elon Musk has brought to North America called Fleet Technologies, and it's something called ambient noise tomography. And it's basically they put these little silver geodes which send sound pulses down into the earth. It goes down 2,000 meters, comes back as a sound map. They then correlate that to your hard scientific data. So, for example, where we had that 40-meter hole where we had 1.6% nickel, that would become a signature sound map. So they would look for those signatures across our land package, and that would identify better places to drill more cost effectively and hopefully find our deposits quicker. So that we're deploying Fleet in early in June. Next week, and probably within about 6 weeks, we'll be starting to drill on that information. So that's coming. Other stuff that's coming is we'll be announcing a spin-off of our gold and copper projects, which should be valuation-wise for our shareholders be in the probably 5 to 7.5 million bonus range as a kicker. Our market cap today is only about 4 times that, so it's a hell of a bonus. And then finally, we'll be updating our 43-101 in Q3, which will be a fairly big day for us because that'll effectively prove the commercialization of the project. I mean, we post all of our drill collars and assays so people can model this and come to that conclusion themselves, and many of the majors have. So it's a pretty exciting time to be looking at Power Nickel. A lot of catalysts, lots of news.
Terry, I don't know how you sleep at night. Sounds like you are incredibly busy. Well, thank you so much for your time. Sorry, go ahead. What was that?
I'd say we are flat out, that's for sure.
Well, this was a really insightful discussion. I feel like we could talk for hours. I really look forward to our next conversation with you with all these exciting teasers that you shared with us. Terry Lynch, CEO and President of Power Nickel, thank you so much for your time today. And as I mentioned, we look forward to sharing more with our audience.
Great, Ashley. Thanks again. Have a great day.